All right, everybody, how's it going? First off, before I do anything in this video, I just want to say I'm using a different camera, so bear with me. Not a different device. I'm still using my phone, but I'm using the front-facing camera, which is a better camera. Um, I just can't see the screen to monitor what I'm doing, so it might be a little off. You may see a light above me that maybe be a tad distracting. Please bear with it. I'll work it out for the next one, but I think going forward, I'm going to use this camera because I really like things to be really nice 4K. Thanks for watching my last couple of videos. I think I did a Blu-ray pickup video and a cologne video. It was like a month, and then that was 2 weeks ago. You know, when I get into these contracts with my job, it's just like all I do is work. I just don't have time for my job, or excuse me, for my hobbies. I really don't. And when I come home, it's sometimes I have like 2 hours to myself to like watch TV, and then I got to get up and do it again. Not to complain too much, of course, but I'm done with that contract now. It was a good one, but it was just a lot of work. I was doing like 9 shows a week and things like that, so that takes a lot out of you. But that free time I gave myself at night, I got back into true crime documentaries. It's always been a thing I like. I always like true crime. I've probably mentioned this before. You've probably noticed this from watching me. I can be a bit cynical at times and hypercritical of films and things. I don't really think a lot of true crime in the past couple of years has been very good because it's become like a commodity sort of thing. I'm sure South Park made a video making fun of true crime. It's gotten to that point. And I don't really like that because I always try to think of two things when watching true crime. It's still a show or a film. I want it to be respected as such. So I'm looking for high production value. And two, these are real people that were killed or raped or whatever. And so I want it to be very serious. I want it to be entertaining and engaging, of course, as does everybody with any media. But I want it to have a very serious, well put together tone. Because if it doesn't, and it just feels like another Netflix, two-parter or whatever, it just feels disrespectful to me in a way. And no, I'm not disrespecting folks that watch all that shit. I kind of do too sometimes, but that's just my thoughts. So my long rambling point with this is that I've been trying to find recently really good true crime, like really good stuff that is not a bullshit like, oh yeah, that was good, I watched it in an afternoon. I'm trying to find some really heavy, well-made documentaries, and I've got a good list of them. A lot of them they're all recommendations, I should say. And I've basically, they are all grouped into categories like murder, rape, serial killers, and it's very dark, but that's the content. And I've just been putting them into a little thing and letting it choose for me a documentary. And then I just watch it. I don't look up anything about it. I just watch it. And I've watched a couple and they've been excellent. I've had no stinkers in the bunch. It's been great. So I was going to do individual reviews, but I'm thinking like I'm going to be watching like 50. There's like 50 on this list. I don't think I want to do that. I think I'll just group them periodically together to let you folks know what I've been watching. If you like true crime and you haven't seen any of these, I can say that I recommend these all wholeheartedly. Most of them are 5-star, in my opinion, or close to that. Some I would say maybe 4-star, but they're all fantastic. I really think they're great. Let's just get into it. I'm just going to do these at random, mostly. Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, and I just want to say I do have them written down just to remember. It's been a couple weeks since I've seen some of these. Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey. This came out on Netflix in 2020, and it's about this cult, but Latter-day Saints offshoot, Latter-day Saints being Mormons, called Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, FCJCLDS. They often said that. It's quite a mouthful. And it's an offshoot of the Latter-day Saints, and it's a typical cult documentary where they had this commune going. Polygamy was very big in this commune. The guy who ran it, I can't remember his name, something Jeffs. He was very old and he had many wives, and they would talk about how it was just a bad. You can see where this is going. The wives would have to sleep with an old man. It was very gross, stuff like that. And then he passed away, and then His son took over, Warren Jeffs, who is one evil, evil son of a bitch. I mean, wow. And really, what this documentary starts as is, to me, it felt kind of like a typical documentary about cults or religion where I see where this is going. You know, they're a polygamous cult. They're weird. Of course, they're breaking the law. But it's just going to be like how these women were affected by this cult and the control. Not to make light of that, but that's what I thought it was going to go. And it certainly talks about that. It goes into great detail about how the cult operated, about Warren Jeff. It goes into the day-to-day operations. It deals with the aftershock of it from the actual interviews of the people, which I always like. I like when these documentaries show you many different points of view, even the cult's point of view, because it's interesting to get a look into how they operate. But specifically when they show a lot of after image, of these survivors. That's what I'm really looking for in a lot of cult documentaries, is to see how it affected these people. Because it really puts it in perspective for you, and it makes it much worse, in my opinion. It really shows these crimes that were committed. Then it took a turn. It got really bad. Not bad as in content quality, but in content. It got very dark. And I'm going to warn you, this gets very dark and disturbing. I don't want to spoil too much throughout this video, but you can assume that with a cult with lots of, wives, 60 wives, 70 wives, polygamous cult, there are going to be underage women. So you're going to see how this leader, Warren Jeffs, really operated for that sole purpose and seemingly got younger and younger. And it goes into great detail on that. And there are some recordings that are played in this, fairly unedited. That's extremely difficult to listen to. It's very dark. And I always don't want to make light of this and say oh, I'm so glad Netflix, went balls to the walls and put that on there. I don't want to say it from an entertainment standpoint, but sometimes you need to hear those horrible things to really understand. And this is the first one I watched in this long list of videos, and it was so graphic at times. I mean, I've seen it all. I've said this before. I've seen it all. Okay, but some things don't leave you, and that's not going to leave me. That was highly, highly disturbing content in this. And again, I'm reiterating, I'm going to do this throughout the video. I'm not watching it for shock value, disturbingness. It just really makes you think about this stuff. So I do applaud them for putting that in there. I'm sure a lot of people will find that too much for them. You could skip over it. You can still enjoy it without listening to some of the more real aspects of it. And you could do that. It was fantastic, and I highly recommend it. Next, we have one called Who Killed Garrett? Phillips. This was on HBO Max, and it came out in 2019. And this one, I think this one was 2 episodes, but they were an hour and 45 minutes a piece or something along those lines. So I think it was, I viewed it personally as a 3.5 hour movie, which I tend to prefer when documentaries are a little bit longer, or I should say one cohesive piece, because in recent years, when true crime is kind of blown up on Netflix and stuff, everything was 8 episodes, and it never needed to be. Sometimes it was 6. They started cutting it down. Really, a 3 or 3.5 hour movie is going to suffice for most things. Not everything, but most things. And I really think that I think documentaries generally are longer than most movies, and I think they need to be. So I personally have no qualms sitting down and watching a 3 or 3.5 hour film, a documentary. And I really like that they did that with this. And there's a couple others I'll mention that do that. And I have noticed, I should say, I'm going on a tangent here. Big surprise. That Netflix has started doing this as well. It seems like they're just doing industry trend kind of stuff. And I'm glad, because the 8 episode thing it was always too much for the content. Now Netflix is starting to do 3 episode documentaries here and there. So I just wanted to point that out, that I really like that that's becoming a trend, because it's cutting out the fat and the bullshit, and it's really getting down to the meat of things, which I think is a change that needed to happen with true crime to make it more believable, realistic, and authentic. So anyways, Who Killed Garrett Phillips was about a young boy who was murdered. Again, I knew nothing about this. I just assumed it was going to be about a kid that died. And it's really interesting. It's an apartment complex, and the woman who lives next door hears some yelling from the kid and some saying help. And she kind of knocks on the door and doesn't hear anything. And then they end up calling the police. And the police officer comes and knocks on the door and hears movement around, all sorts of weird things. It's very creepy. This one gave me some chills. It was a little creepy because it really it was set up like a mystery in a way, almost in a way like an Agatha Christie sort of mystery, like a locked room mystery, like who was in there? Why was the kid saying help? Who was moving around when the cop was behind the door waiting for them to come out? When they eventually got in there, the kid unfortunately was dead, but nobody else was in there. But they saw the window was open, and they assumed, it's one of those kind of things, and it gave me a mystery vibe, and it was just very intriguing and captivating the way that they presented it. The mystery vibe works for a lot of stuff, and I don't think it's utilized often, but that's going into another discussion. I think mystery as a genre, not a thriller, not a horror, a mystery, I think that's a genre that is sorely, criminally underused these days, and they used it very well here. It just had me thinking the whole time, what the fuck went on in there? And the whole thing was about trying to piece together what happened. And in this one, there's essentially only one main suspect, Nick Hillary, who is a Jamaican immigrant who is the ex-boyfriend of the kid's mom. And he was a soccer player. He was teaching soccer at the local university, and they really just zeroed in on him and were like, he did it. It's a lot of stuff like that. You're going to see that her other ex-boyfriend is a sheriff, kind of racist, very close-minded, didn't like the guy, probably because he was an immigrant, because of the color of his skin. And sometimes documentaries can be one-sided, but this sheriff guy said things on video that were on the verge of being, black and white, saying it out loud. So it feels in some ways like a railroad kind of story, kind of like Making a Murderer in some ways. It was partly a mystery, but also I don't want to ruin a lot. I don't want to spoil a lot. There are a lot of questions unanswered, and that's okay with me sometimes. But I really enjoyed this one. It was about 3.5 hours. You can watch it in one sitting. It was excellent, and I highly recommend it. I got to go a little quicker here. The Way Down is the next one. This one I want to say was HBO to 2021, and this is about the Remnant Fellowship Church. Gwen Shamblin Lane might be her married name. I can't remember, but she basically started a Southern Baptist church, kind of a mega church, blew up into like a Joel Osteen kind of thing. We always know that these people are complete hucksters and bullshitters, even if you're religious, right? I'm totally an atheist, but even if you're religious, I'm sure there's plenty of religious people that also think that these, the Joel Osteen types are just complete hucksters, right? Driving their Rolls Royces and everything and asking for donations. So you had that kind of thing, but she took it a step further where she basically started selling a weight loss program about, you got to be so skinny to go to heaven, and that's the basic gist. I know that sounds simple, but it's as crazy as that. I do remember hearing about this, and I just thought, wow, that's really wacky. But actually watching how it all happened, and this one goes a little more into just the cult in general and how people are sucked into a cult. And it has a very satisfying payoff, I will say. So I recommend that one highly as well. One quick one that I'm currently watching, I'm almost done with, but I just had to mention because it's so damn good, is The Vow, which came out in 2020 on HBO Max or HBO whatever, and that's about the Nixium cult. It's basically posing. All these cults pose as something to get people in, and then they use those people that they've brainwashed as a product or as some sort of promotion for what they're actually selling people. It's always the case. The Vow is about the Nixium cult that brought in people for the self-help cult, but underneath everything, there was a sex slave thing going on with actual branding of people's names. I'm sure you've heard about Allison Mack, yes, the actress being in this. Her name is branded on women's vaginas. It's that brutal and terrible. Unfortunately, that's what happened. This one is especially freaky to me because it took place in the city that I live in. Well, not in, but I work in. And so all these places they're talking about and showing, I've been there thousands of times. So it's freaky that it hits so close to home. I just want to recommend that one. I feel comfortable recommending it because I only have an episode to go. It was absolutely outstanding. It's a longer one, it's 8 episodes, and this is one of the few ones I've seen in recent memory where the episode time was well worth it. I probably could use more. It was so well paced and well shot. Very gripping, amazing. I'm going to come to the last one. This is one of the best I've ever seen in my life. I'm not joking with you. I saved the best for last. This fucked me up. It really scared me. Not a lot of stuff scares me. I'm not trying to be a tough guy. I've just seen a bajillion horror films. This was scary, all right? It's called I'll Be Gone in the Dark. It's on HBO. It came out in 2020. This is freaky. This is about two things, and it was so beautiful and well done the way they did it. It's about the Golden State Killer, who is also known by a couple names. The East Area Rapist is the one he's also known by. He was a rapist, burglar, and murderer in the 80s, late 70s through the 80s. I want to say his last crime was committed in 86. And I hate to spoil a little bit, but it's such common knowledge now. It was often believed to be a multiple people. It was decided and figured out that it was one person. And he was very bad. He was really brutal. And also what this is about Michelle McNamara, who was a true crime enthusiast, ran a blog, a forum, and started really getting into investigative reporting and writing a book about this called I'll Be Gone in the Dark, which I encourage you to read. And I suggest you actually read it afterwards. Get the gist of the story from the documentary, which is great. Then read the book to get all the extra stuff. I think it'd be more fascinating that way. But she wrote this. And it's common knowledge now. I'm not spoiling anything, but she passed away. Unclear exactly why. She was addicted to prescription pills and stuff like that, some heavy drugs. I think she got, they kind of painted a couple different ways in this documentary. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's personal stuff. I don't try to peer into stuff like that. She probably just got into it, and the whole thing too sucked in and overdosed on drugs. Also was Patton Oswalt's wife. Who I like Patton Oswalt. He's okay. He's not my favorite, but he's good. But I knew his wife had passed away from drugs, and sure enough, this was her. He's in this documentary quite a bit. So it deals with her process of writing this and the aftermath of what happened, not just after the events of the crimes, but after her death. And man, it was just fascinating. Those two things. There was a moment when I was watching this and I thought, I wish they picked a side. I wish they made this totally about Michelle's. I wish this was a documentary about her making of the book or a documentary about the Golden State Killer. And then when I finished it, I thought it was the perfect marriage of those two things. I really thought it was that good. I don't have much more to say about it. I think it's probably the best true crime documentary I've ever watched. I give it 5 stars. I recommend it. Among the highest of things I probably have ever recommended on this channel. It was an absolutely phenomenal piece of cinema. The one thing I will tell you about this and why it really scared me is because they really went into detail of what actually happened during these events, and you don't often hear that. You watch I've watched thousands of these things, and they'll say he came in, he went through the window, he raped me, he tied me up, or they do that. But that's not everything that happened. They oftentimes in this documentary go a long time. Like they'll say, he was here for 4 hours. He raped me many times. He said he was going to cut my fingers off. He would put plates on their back and said, if I hear those plates move, I'm going to stab you in the heart. He would drink their beers and make sandwiches. He would go through their stuff. And it just really freaked me out thinking, imagine this if this happened to me or to you. And this guy, you don't think about how long that is, because a 5-minute assault, is going to feel like hours to somebody, but a 4-hour assault is going to feel like weeks. I'm doing it a disservice by summarizing it like this. They go into great detail. So again, if you're a little bit squeamish, like I said in the other one, careful. It gets very graphic, and it's honestly quite frightening because they really let you know. We're going to tell you what it's really like to be in an assault like this. And again, he was a killer. He killed a lot of people too. Some people didn't make it. So, wow. But really good. This is very long. I apologize it went on so long, but that's been my thing lately. I've just been oddly, it's just so weird to say relaxing with this kind of stuff, but it's what I like. It's when I don't want to watch a movie, I can always rely on this stuff, and these are really good ones. I'll keep you updated with these. Like I said, I have a 50 show list. This is what, 5? There'll be more of these. I want to let you know, though, again, I'm not working at the moment, so I'll have much more videos for you. And it's going to be all sorts of stuff now. I do have some cologne videos for you. I have movie and some video game reviews and stuff like that. Some music stuff here and there. So it's going to be more frequent. It won't be every 2 weeks like it's been, or every month. Just want to let you know. I appreciate you so much for watching. I always appreciate it. Please comment. Let me know what's going on with you, if you've seen any of these. Whatever you want to say, I love talking to you folks. It's why I do YouTube. So have a great day, and peace out.